Hello everyone, I am back with another video. If you're new here, I'm Molly and I do book content here on YouTube. I do a mixture of Christian and non-Christian, mostly fiction, but I'll dabble in a bit of non-fiction as well. Today I am doing a Christmas Carol tag, and I saw Anne from In Search of Wonder do this video, this tag. And she basically tagged anyone who wanted to do it. But it being the Christmas season, a lot of people were busy, so she didn't. I think she tagged some people in particular, but I think it's mostly just to anyone who can do it, because it's, you know, a very busy time of year. And I am a bit late filming and posting this, so it'll be after Christmas now that you'll be seeing this, but that's fine. It's currently the 26th. For us here in England, we call it Boxing Day. I think a lot of other places it's just the 26th of December, the day after Christmas Day. So I hope all of you who celebrate have had a lovely Christmas. And yes, and if those of you who see my last video, if you can tell, my little brother, he's amazing. I say little, he's 20. He fixed my lights so they look nicer now, and you can all breathe a sigh of relief. They're not being hung up by sellotape. My brother sent me a link to these really good hook things that you can stick on the wall so they won't damage the walls or anything, or they shouldn't anyway. So I bought those and he helped fix them up and hang my fairy lights so they look a lot neater now and you can still see them, which is exactly what I wanted. So that's good. So yes, that's about it. Should I show you my mug? This isn't a new mug, but it is seasonal, more winter seasonal than Christmas. Oh dear, I've had help bringing this up, so he's not very clean looking, but here he is. We'll see. I've not actually named them before, so I'm trying to do it so you can see the face, and I'm trying to do it without spilling more of my drink, which is failing. Okay, so there he is. Apologies for the hot chocolate spillages, but there we go. He's got a little hat. He's so cute. So there you go. Got a little hat and you can drink out of him. So yeah, that's my little mug for today's video. Yeah, it's a bit of a spillage though, hasn't there? But there we go. It's the risk of taking things upstairs. Okay, so let's actually get on with this video. So the Christmas Carol tag, there is a original creator. Her name is Lauren Wade, and I'll link her below, as well as Anne, whose video I did actually see. I haven't seen Lauren's, so just be aware of that. But yeah, there are 8 questions and then a little question that's basically to tag people. So let's get started. Question 1. Ghost of Christmas Past, a book that was a childhood favourite. Now, I don't actually really know if I have childhood favourites. I definitely had a childhood favourite picture book, which had some words, but it's mostly for quite young kids. I didn't really have favourite books. Otherwise, most books I didn't reread, so even though I would have enjoyed them when I was reading them, because I didn't read them more than once, I wouldn't really count them as a childhood favourite. But there were definitely books I really loved, especially series more than individual books. Certainly series that I've continued to read. So I'm going to start with the children's one, and that is a children's book called Sits, Dinner, Sid. Sits like the number 6. Sits. I have a lisp, which is why I'm explaining it more, just in case you're not quite sure what I said. And it's basically about a cat. And basically just saying that I think most people who know cats are probably not surprised by the title. It's this cat who keeps asking for other dinners at other neighbours' houses. Apparently 6 in total, or 6 including the owner's house. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But that's definitely been a book that has stuck with me because I loved it. I don't know why. Probably because it was a cat. So yeah, that's definitely a childhood favourite. But in terms of as a little bit of an older child, I never really had anything that was a favourite. But I know there was a series called The School for Good and Evil, and I'll put a picture up. I do actually have most of the books physically. I'm sure I had one of them, but I can't find it. I probably still have it. It's just lost somewhere. But yeah, and that is a older children's kind of young teen sort of book series, and it's basically based on descendants of really famous fairy tale or mythological characters. And I'm saying all mythological because there's also the child of King Arthur, which is technically more of a myth than a fairy tale, or at least that's what I've been grown up to think anyway. But then there's others that are actually fairy tale characters, like there's a book that shows like Cinderella in it and stuff like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed that series, but I'm not sure how old I was when I started it, because I feel like I might have been more like a late teens, maybe young adult, kind of like 17 years old sort of thing when I started reading them, but I'm not sure. Because when I got the first one, I don't know how long it had been out for. It could have been out for ages, or it could have been reasonably new, I don't know. And I don't remember when it first came out, so I can't even guess if it was around the time when I would have started reading them. But again, I would sort of class that as a sort of childhood-ish favourite as well, because I definitely loved it. I've read all of the series so far. Well, it's finished, but there's also 2 books that are prequels to the original series that have come out in the past 2-3 years. So yeah, I haven't read those 2 yet, but the main series I have read and finished as far as I'm aware. So I would class that as a childhood favourite. Other than that, I don't have any others, because books like Anne of Green Gables and The Secret Garden and Little Women, I actually read those this past year as an adult, because I'm 28. So they're not really childhood favourites. But I definitely think if I had read Anne of Green Gables as a child, that definitely would have been a childhood favourite. I can pretty much guarantee it. I don't know for sure, but pretty much. So yeah, I would say those. Question 2. Ghost of Christmas Present. A recent book that you think will become your all-time favourite. And if I'm honest, I don't really have all-time favourites. I find it quite limiting, because I find usually something that's considered a favourite is something I would continue to reread, or something that sticks with me for a long time, like with Six Dinner Said, the children's book. So I don't really know, especially because it's recent. Is it? Yeah, it's recent, so it's hard for me to know that. And if I'm honest, it's more about the author for me than the actual individual books. So, I mean, it definitely means the books are favourites, because otherwise I wouldn't love the authors and continue. So I can't really answer that, other than in terms of authors, I would probably say maybe like Francine Rivers, Ellen Montgomery, Louisa May Alcott as well, who did Little Women, Pepper Basham. Although I've only read one, Pepper Basham, but and to be fair, I've only read 2 Francine Rivers, but you know, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, I don't really have anything I think will be an all-time favourite necessarily. Also, I can't necessarily remember all the books I've read in recent times, certainly like the past year. So it's hard for me to answer that personally. Also, I'm not very good at keeping up with recent kind of published books that will come out this year sort of thing. I don't really keep track. I never have. Most of the time, especially growing up, most of my books were from libraries, and then from charity shops, and then gifts from other people, so they wouldn't necessarily be, books that came out in the last year or anything like that, usually. The odd book will have been, like I read the Twilight series, I think, around when the first film came out. I think I started it before the first one came out and then continued as they were coming out, although I think I finished it before most of the films came out, but yeah. So there's been the odd ones like that, like the Hunger Games as well, but I mean, I only read the first two of the Hunger Games. I tried reading the third one, I couldn't get into it, and I was told it would be a slow start, but I just couldn't stick with it, so I had to stop that one. So yeah, I can't really answer that for a recent all-time favourite. Yeah, certainly not for specific books. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. I'm not doing very well. Not that it's anything to do with that really, but yeah. Question 3. Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. A book coming out next year that you're excited about. And if what I've just been talking about is any indication to you, I can't really answer that. I have no idea. I have seen recent videos from Christian booktubers on here talking about books that they're excited to come out in the next year. I just don't remember them. I'm like, oh, that sounds good, but I don't write it down. It's probably a good thing for my bank account and for space. But yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily have one. I think the nearest is probably the latest book in the Timeless series. But I'm very reluctant about saying that because I've not actually started the series. I think I'll love it, but I don't want to say that I'm excited for the next book coming out next year without reading the first one or two at least. So, kind of that one, but just tentative, just slightly. Other than that, I can't remember any others. I know there's some that I can remember that came out this past year, which count as recent, but it says next year, so they don't count for the question. So there we go. Question 4. Bar Humbug. A book everyone loves but you can't stand. I can't really answer that either. So far, I've not really read a book that I can't stand. There are books that I've given like 3 stars, but I wouldn't say I can't stand them. And I've not DNF'd any books in recent years. The only one I actually remember DNF'ing is the one I've mentioned, which was the 3rd book in the Hunger Games series, which I think, is it Catching Fire? Or is that the sequel? I think that's the 2nd one, isn't it? Wherever the 3rd one is, that's the only one I actually remember actually DNF'ing. Recent years, don't really remember. Most books I've not hated so much where I've had to stop reading them. And there is one book that I definitely have read and I'm like, I don't want to continue with this author. So that kind of counts. But again, it wasn't a book I couldn't stand. But I guess I'll give you that one. And that's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I knew sort of what I was getting into, but I was really curious. And the title Book Lovers, I mean, my channel's about books. I had to. But I did read and complete that, but I think I gave that 3 stars. I think. Yeah, it won't have been more than that. Maybe 3.5 if it is, but it won't have been a 4. So I think that's the nearest, because I was like, right, I've kind of tried that. I know I don't want to continue it, so I won't, sort of thing. But I wouldn't say I can't stand the book, and I wouldn't necessarily say I can't stand the author because I've only read one book, but I know I won't read her books. You know? It's a difficult one. So I guess I'll say book lovers, because that's the nearest. It's the nearest one, isn't it? You know? Oh, it's so messy. Right. Try and do this without getting it all over my cream jumper. If you're curious, I made myself a sugar-free mint syrup hot chocolate. Not with hot chocolate powder, but with cocoa powder, like the chocolate powder you use for baking as well as hot chocolate. So, yeah, it has less sugar, the cocoa powder, than hot chocolate. So, okay. Question 5. Bob Cratchit. An old, dependable, always a book you always recommend. And again, I don't have an old dependable. I tend not to reread books because I find there's just so many other books that I want to read that I don't want to necessarily reread a book. Now, there are books I have reread, like A Christmas Carol, but that's only been twice. So I can't necessarily say it's an old dependable. But I do enjoy it. To be honest, the only one I can really call an old dependable is the Bible, really, which is something I would always recommend. But obviously I wouldn't recommend it to everyone because a lot of people aren't Christians, so they won't be interested in reading the Bible, you know. So in terms of actual fictional type books, I wouldn't. Yeah, there's not really an old dependable type of thing, and the amount of books I've read that I can remember, I wouldn't know what to recommend because it depends on the person. You know, there are books I might recommend to this person here that I wouldn't necessarily recommend to this person there. You know, it's all personal taste and, you know, what people are interested in and how busy someone is maybe, or, you know, whatever. So other than the Bible, I can't really. I don't have one. I don't have an old recommendable. No, an old dependable, sorry. So, yeah. Most of the time I'm not recommending books, am I? Okay. Question 6. Tiny Tim. An underhyped book that deserves more love. I mean, you could say the Bible for that one these days, couldn't you? But I won't use that as my answer. I don't know. I don't really know what's considered underhyped. And I wouldn't say it's a particular book. What I'm thinking of, it's more of an actual author. So it's, yeah, I don't have a specific book that I think is underhyped. Yeah, so, yeah, again, I don't know. Yeah, I can't answer that either. Oh dear. It's going to be very boring for all of you watching. I'm not recommending any books for you to buy. Not that I'm telling you should go buy books. I'm not doing that at all. Okay. Question 7. Today, why it's Christmas Day? A book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas that isn't a Christmas Carol. So other than the Christmas Carol, what would I recommend for a Christmas book that always gets me in the spirit of Christmas? And I'm going to have to say I don't have an answer for that one either. What a surprise. Mainly because I have not really read much I've not read seasonally on purpose before. So last Christmas, winter and this year are the first times I've actually tried that. And so I don't really have, there's not a particular book that I would say always gets me in the spirit of Christmas because I've not read them. Funnily enough, the only one that's the nearest to it is A Christmas Carol because that's the only one I've read more than once now. So I don't actually know. So yeah, again, I can't really recommend anything for that one either. I'm not doing well with this, are we? Okay, question 8. The Muppet Christmas Carol. A favourite film version of a book. So, now the Muppet Christmas Carol is a favourite, so I'm not going to include that one. Now, there are favourite films for during Christmas that I love. A couple of them are based on books. However, I've not read those books. So be aware, I don't know what the books are like. But one of my favourite films is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the one with Jim Carrey. Love that one. It's the one I grew up watching. So that one's definitely a favourite film. But there's also Miracle on 34th Street. And I've not read that book either. And I know there's at least 2 versions. There's one that was done in the 90s with Richard Attenborough and Mara Wilson, who played Matilda. And then there's also one that was done in, I had a look, I think it was in the 40s, in the 20s. I'm not sure. It's in black and white anyway. And I actually watched that for the first time this year, just the other day, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that one. It was lovely. That's on Disney Plus, if any of you are wondering and you haven't seen it. Or at least it is here in the UK. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Yeah. So I would, but I grew up with the Mara Wilson one, so that's always the one I always think about. So technically I'm recommending that, the 94 or somewhere in the 90s version for that one in particular. But yeah, that's the last of the questions. The last one that's a question is to tag people. That's number 9. So like with my last tag, I'm not going to actually tag anyone specifically. We've been such a busy season. So yeah, just consider yourself tagged if you want to join in. Yeah, I'm going to try and get this out a bit earlier than I would normally. It's because it's currently, well, technically now it won't even be Boxing Day, I don't think. So yeah, consider yourself tagged if you would like to join in. And that is it. I'll leave you all to it. Again, I hope you had a lovely Christmas. I hope you will have a great new year as well. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, you know, do a tag video if you would like, or write your answers in the comments, whichever. And yes, subscribe as well if you would like. I usually try and get a video out once a week, usually. So far, touch wood, as they say, I have been pretty much, mostly anyway. So yeah, hopefully I will continue to do that. And yeah, I will see you all next week. It'll be the new year by then, I think. Yes, it will be. So yes, I will see you next year. It's crazy. I don't know where the year's gone. I don't know. But anyway. Bye.